First, I am policy officer within a diversity and inclusion office, and I just want to welcome Gloria Keukens-Kahn because I think it's nice to just start right away. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here to talk about this topic, unconscious bias. I'm really excited to discuss this with you and to hear your personal experiences with this. It's going to be 1.5 hours, and I'm going to try to make it as interactive as possible because I feel always you learn the most when you can also really make it personal. And it will be my expertise together with your personal experiences will be the best learning experience. And also, of course, the people that logged in today, welcome for being here. All right, so unconscious bias. If you have a brain, you're biased. That could be comforting, right? We're all biased. I see some faces. We're all biased. Come join us. You're very welcome to join our unconscious bias workshop. The more the better. Come closer by. And what you need for an exercise in a bit is a pen and paper, but I also have a paper here, so that'll be fine. And welcome if you're joining us also online. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about conscious bias, because there's conscious and there's unconscious bias. We're going to talk about stereotypes, and we're going to talk about the neurological processes that cause unconscious bias. And this is quite important to understand because it makes you understand how your own brain works and why we think in boxes and in categories. And why, if you have a brain, you're biased. And we're going to talk about one of the most common biases, because we only have 1.5 hours. This is normally a workshop of 3 hours. And it can even be a day, because there are 180 biases, and we're just going to talk about one today, but a very important one, because this is one that really affects a lot of decisions that we make. So with that one bias, I think hopefully in 1.5 hours I can still give you something to think about and something to maybe make a change already right after this workshop. All right, and we're going to think of 2 actions to override bias for us, each one of us personally. So let's start, because you see me, and maybe immediately there's associations that come up when you see me, because that's what we do, right? Please come join us. There's a person standing in front of you, and maybe you look at my shoes, maybe you look at my clothes, maybe you look at my glasses, my hair, and certain things, ideas about me pop up, because that's what we do when we meet people new. So which of these pictures do you think will fit me? And just take a moment, and then I'll ask you, which of these pictures do you think, yeah, I can see her meditating, being spiritual, or I think she'll have one of these nice family gardens. I can see that she has a house like that. This must be the garden of her house. Or maybe you think, yeah, she could have a girlfriend. She could have a wife. Could be. She's a volleyball player. She likes traveling. I don't know. So would love to hear, also from the people online, why not? And I have an assistant who will look online to see your reactions as well. So you're definitely included to react. And I won't say it yet. But what do you think of this yoga meditation picture? Anybody thinks like, yeah, she meditates? Fatima, you, yeah, I think I'm the meditating type. What makes you think that?
Well, I think just the topic of this workshop.
The topic of this workshop, yeah?
It's like very non-violent.
Non-violent, very zen, yeah. Nice, so the diversity and inclusion professional, the meditation could very well go hand in hand. Yeah, I think that's a logical association. Could be. What about the garden? Who thinks, yeah, this is my garden? Who thinks so? No, you don't think of me of this garden. Fatima, a little bit. What about online? What do people say? Any reactions? No? Oh, come on, you can associate. Feel free to associate. What about the volleyball playing? Yeah? Marco? Yeah, you think so? Why do you think so? Because I'm quite tall. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm 5'11", so that's quite tall. So I could be a great volleyball player. Yeah, could be. No, not the volleyball playing time. Okay. Now, anyway, what about the wife or the girlfriend? Do I have a girlfriend? That's a little bit of a tricky one. It's quite personal.
I thought that, but not because of the girlfriend, simply the picture.
You thought because of the picture that it could be my picture? Yeah.
It didn't necessarily have to be your girlfriend or your wife, simply the emotional get-together.
The emotional get-together. Yeah, you thought it would suit me to do it like that. Yeah, all right. No, nice. Anybody else have any associations particular with me? Yeah?
I think the traveling one.
The traveling one.
And I think, if I'm being honest with myself,
Yeah.
I think I draw that association based on the topic, but more so because if I was doing anything on diversity and inclusion, I would assume that I'm somebody that knows a lot about other communities and travels a lot.
Right.
So I'm projecting what I would think onto you.
You're projecting your thing that you would do. I'm repeating for that somebody who's in diversity and inclusion, you would expect to be traveling a lot. Yeah.
I have the same.
Yeah, you too, David? Yeah. No, yeah, that's nice. So thank you so much for associating freely. It's true. Actually, I'm not a meditator. I have tried it, but I am too impatient for it. I do travel a lot. Actually, I studied in New York, where I studied human resources management, international. I met my husband there, so this is... I have some really good girlfriends, but I'm heterosexual. So I met my husband in New York. He's Pakistani, born in Brazil. So this is why every 1 or 2 years I'm going to Pakistan. Half of my family is Muslim. We both live together in Amsterdam. This is not our garden. We have 2 kids, so we do have quite a nice family together. We've been together for 21 years, so yeah. Intercultural communication, I'm doing it 24/7, you could say. And I love to walk in the woods. I've been in HR, and I'm not a volleyball player. And I don't do this for the money. I actually really think this is a very important topic. I like to bring people that feel distant closer together. And I think the topic of diversity and inclusion really is about including and excluding people and being able to bring your full self to work as a student in your academic life as well. I lived in 3 different countries, in China, in Belgium, in Holland and in the US. And I had the biggest culture shock in Belgium. And people find that funny, but it was like the most unexpected change for me. It was only 2 hours from where I used to live. And so I had no idea it was going to be such a culture shock. But then later on, I really was thinking in my human resources management career when I was working with multicultural teams and I saw how different the Dutch were compared to the Belgian. I started to dive into the topic of cultural differences and got to know Hofstede. And so I got to know that there's no 2 European countries so different from each other than Belgium and Holland. So actually that explained a lot, that made sense. And also there I felt very excluded. That was like the 1 year I felt very excluded because I was so different and my other classmates were together for such a long time already, 5 years, and I was the new person there. I was the only Dutch person there, and people didn't get to hang out with me because I probably would be selling weed. I was very loud and opinionated. That's what they thought of me. So already very labeled as very negative. And I think that it was a very tough experience, but it did lay the groundwork for the work I'm doing now, because I know how bad it feels when you feel so singled out. and how good it feels when I was in New York, when I was different, but people were like, wow, you're so different, you're from Holland, this is great, come and join us. It was such a different feeling. So I know the power that it gives to be included, and also the anxiety and the anger and the fear that it brings when you're excluded. So I think in that sense, everybody deserves to be included. So you made all these stories up about me. And this is actually what unconscious bias is about. It's about the stories that you make up about people before even knowing them. That's the ideas, the associations that come up in your head. And they're often based on generalizations, on stereotypes of groups that people belong to. And so we have different ideas about a group of Suriname guys. We have different ideas about the high-class girls from Bloemendaal, from the richer class. We have ideas about elderly people, or people with disability. We have ideas. We have, based on what we're going to talk about, how that comes about, what that's based on. We have an idea about Muslim girls, So these are stories and ideas that we make up in our heads about people, and sometimes we're not even that conscious of it. In most of the countries that we're from, because I think we're a quite international crowd, there's laws. The first Article 1 is a lot of times the article that says that we're all need to be treated the same way. Discrimination is forbidden. And this also says in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as in Article 1. We're all the same, we're all supposed to be treated equal. And yet, this is not the case a lot of times. How come? There's a lot of evidence that there's still a lot of age bias when it comes to hiring, that there's gender bias. Now, we heard Ineke about it, how much gender bias there still is. There's racial bias. There is bias on where someone comes from, what religion they're from. LGBTQ bias. Ideas that we have about groups of people, whether being good or bad, but there's bias. And so even though consciously we don't want to have discrimination, we don't want to treat people differently, for some reason it does happen. That's the world that we live in. So I want to dive into that a little bit deeper and think about how come we have these biases? And we're going to talk about the brain and how the brain works, but it's also interesting to understand what feeds the brain, that we unconsciously make these associations and we judge people based on our underbelly feeling. And sometimes the associations are better than maybe they should be, and maybe they're worse than they should be based on the groups that people belong to. So why does this happen? Our brain gets a lot of information all the time. And it cannot deal with so much information. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. But our culture, the stories that we tell our children, the stories that we write in books, the perspectives, the narratives that are being taught to us when we grow up, when we're young, they stick into our brain. Our history, what a country has gone through, whether it being war, whether it being oppression, whether it being a terrible tsunami, it gets stuck in the stories and in the DNA of a people. So history, upbringing, but also in the language that we use, without us even knowing it, certain sayings, expressions that we use, it has a certain value, these words. And it feeds the brain into liking or disliking, thinking what's good and what's bad. All gets sucked into the brain. So take, for example, the heroes that we have as a cartoon. My son, who is now 13, used to walk around with his Spider-Man suit like non-stop when he was 8. I think from 8 to 10, he would sleep in it, he would run around in it. You know, he would not take it off. He was Superman. Or was it Batman? I don't know, black and yellow, and Superman was the one in the front, right? So he loved that. He absorbed that. He thought, and I don't even know, probably from cartoons or maybe some books. But this for him was the hero, that he wanted to be. And you see, there is these really masculine figures of men that are going to save the world. That's how he wanted to be. And my daughter, she also put the Superman suit on. She also wanted to be Superman. She wanted to be that. And she also did that for a long time until she discovered Mega Mindy. And then she turned into Mega Mindy. Is this recognizable? Do you have kids? Yeah? Do they also love the superheroes? Yeah? Are they the superheroes, they look like that? No? Princess? They like to be princesses. Yeah. That could also be. Now we're going to come to that. But here you can see like the really masculine, very muscular, white males, you could say, who are the example of how boys want to be. The girls, on the other hand, they have different examples. They see a lot of women. These are the angels, victorious angels. Women, they have to be seductive and wild and naked, preferably, right? But at the same time, we also want the women, to be the typical mothers, the caring mothers. Huh? So these are the two images that we see of women a lot. Also, this is a picture of a brochure that came into the mail just a few years ago. Now I think that the consciousness has changed a bit and you don't see it that much, but very clearly what is meant for girls and what is meant for boys. And already that gender stereotype is very much enforced. Now I think that we've all heard about these stereotypes and that we've all seen it and it's been discussed. So thankfully that's changing. But also how we look at the LGBTQ community. We see gays mostly naked on a boat, in the gay pride. But two gay men just, having a relaxed Saturday evening on the couch in front of the TV, you see that a lot less, right? So this is also how, it sticks in our brain. This is how people are represented. This is how groups are represented. Any of you ever followed a leadership program? No? Yeah? Some of you? Yeah? You see a lot of these pictures, right? In leadership programs. It's the man in the suit, white man in the suit, telling them everybody where to go. This is where to go. This is leadership. And also on the TV we see, yeah, that makes sense. It looks a little bit like it. This is leadership. And you see the woman's position as the facilitating position, the one that translates literally the message of the men. And unfortunately, there's a lot of images that we see around us of people of color who are in more inferior positions, that have lower paying jobs, that are sometimes portrayed as a criminal a lot. I'm not going to go into the Zwarte Piet discussion, the blackface image, but of course, these images, they all tie into what our brain absorbs and what sticks, consciously or unconsciously. Maybe you even consciously say, no, that's wrong, but it's still, if you're overloaded with these images and these examples, it will stick. So yes, feed the brain with different images, with different examples. Be visible, like Ineke said, the visibility of different examples. It's so important because diversity of images, diversity of examples, diversity of representation of different positions, it will be sucked into the brain. It will be absorbed by the brain, and it will make it easier to make different associations with certain groups, more positive, or with different words, or with different... So yes, let there be a Mega Mindy. So important. Some people feel like, oh, it's so forced, you know, like where it seems like so forced. All of a sudden you see all these commercials with people from all different colors. Yes, and I think it is important because consciously or unconsciously, your brain absorbs it all. So yes, we do need to see a lot of good examples of mayors. Abu Talib, you see here, the Rotterdam mayor who became the best, I think it was last week, he became the best mayor of the world. And he is a Moroccan, Dutch man with Islamic roots. So, I mean, yes, let's focus on that. Let's put that in the picture. Politicians, let them be of different colors, please, because we see that different people are represented and can be anything. And the same for our children, because our children will look at these people and think, hey, I can be that too. So this is how the brain also absorbs. And have black heroes, like in Black Panther, it was like an all-black cast. And people were like, now, why is there an all-black cast? There are so many movies with just a white cast, and nobody says anything. Why is it not? Slowly starting, but turn it around. Why not? And make the brain, let the brain make these different associations, because it matters. So we have stereotypes and we have these associations, and I really like this TED talk from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and I did study on that. And she has one of the really most successful talks about the danger of a single story, that we sometimes we only know one story about a group of people. And she says stereotypes, some are true, but many are not, and all are incomplete. So if you talk about the Dutch being stingy, yeah, some people are stingy. Some Dutch people don't want to spend money. But then there's also a lot of people that do want to spend money. So some are just, not stingy at all. And maybe there's a story to this stinginess, I can talk about the Calvinist background, the history of Protestant Calvinist history of Holland, about the water management that has an effect. So all these things, they have a story behind them. So now, well, first of all, I'd like to hear from you. What are your observations? What are your ideas that are going through your head right now when I say this? Do you think, yeah? Makes sense? Any things we need to know from the online participants?
Yeah, I think they are active. They're gone now online.
Yeah, please share with us your thoughts on this topic. Also, if you don't agree, that's fine. Yeah, Marco.
In this whole discussion, how pinkwashing is having a role, which is being inclusive only in certain periods of the year, or showing inclusivity when maybe the companies are not. And
Yeah.
in this sense, is it still a good thing because we are giving still the options that?
So maybe you could repeat
Oh yeah.
the question.
Oh yeah. Sorry. No. Yeah. I will. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no, the question was about pinkwashing and the companies, and if this has a positive effect in this sense, because usually it's seen as a negative thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand. I have some companies that I work with that want to start with diversity and inclusion initiatives, and they start with like maybe changing the pictures of their website, make it more colorful or make it more a diverse picture. And they say, but we're a bit hesitant because we want to start somewhere. Actually, we should start from the inside and change our organization and then change the pictures. But yeah, at the same time, we want to attract more diverse personnel because we want to be open to more diverse personnel, people with different backgrounds, with different sexual orientations, different, disability. So what comes first is the chicken and the egg story. So I think it all depends on every case separately. Like if there's a company that really thinks, okay, this is just to make more money and to attract a diverse clientele, which we can make more money from, but our organization is not diverse at all, I think then it's pinkwashing or greenwashing or whatever, But if companies are trying to make steps and are actually trying to change the organization from within, I think it's not so bad to show it from the outside. Because you got to start somewhere, yeah. All right, so let's start an exercise, and I hope you have piece and paper nearby at hand. Would you like some paper? Do you have a pen? No? Does anybody have an extra pen? Yeah? Yeah, sure. A good trade. Yes. Anybody else? Just share. And I would like to ask you to write the initials of your 5 trusted few. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's coming in.
Yeah.
But she's still processing. I think there's a second part coming. But someone is saying, I can't see her name, but she says, I wonder, the examples that you mentioned are in many cases of women taking a male role, like Mega Mindy. She's taking the role of a Superman. So, but then the second part isn't there yet. But yeah, we can guess maybe.
That's an interesting one. I think that's also interpretation, huh? Is it a typical male role? Do you see like a hero saving the world as a typical male thing to do? Maybe that's already like the programming that we have in our heads. Now, curious what she says about that. Or he. We think it's a she, but this is also something. And I'm super interested in this topic. I learn a lot about it. I studied it. I read about it, but I'm still learning. And nobody's perfect. This is a journey that we're all on. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable to challenge your thoughts. And I still also sometimes make mistakes. I think that's important to mention because we're, this diversity and inclusion program or this journey, it's something we're all in, and we can't be perfect in it. But okay, so the exercise is as follows: write the initials of your 5 trusted few. So I will explain that, and I hope that the online people will also do the same thing. Just get a piece of paper, and actually, it's important that you have the piece of paper like this, and you write on the short side the 5 names. So on the short side, all right? So think about the 5 people that you trust the most in your life, but it cannot be family. It can be your partner. It can be your partner. But it cannot, and it can be friends, it can be colleagues, it can be neighbors. But it cannot be family, not blood related, except for your partner, okay? So this is something that's personal and just for you. So you don't need to share this necessarily with anybody else. I'm not gonna ask you to. So you can put the initials, you can put the name, but just write 5 names. Do you need a paper as well?
I have a paper but no pen, so...
Oh, anybody got an extra pen? Red is okay. And no paper? Please, please, please. This is a nice exercise to do, so... See, now with all the people here, we get everything, both paper and pen. You got it? Yeah, but I would prefer you use a paper. Okay? Okay. Marije, any comments so far that we need to know about?
Yeah, Camila, or sorry, no, there was someone else, or the other person that I was already was commenting. She was asking, like, are there also other opposite examples of making the traditional female role, or of making the traditional female roles more valuable, or emphasizing the importance of those roles more?
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting point she's making, or he, I don't know.
Now, Camilla.
No, Camilla was actually saying that she also seeing these things at the TU Delft. The majority of people that composes the cleaning staff are dark-skinned people. I was wondering how the TU Delft could work to change that. So I suggested actually that, that she sends an email to our office, the diversity office as well, so we can think of about that further, because it's a valuable point, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so after you've done that, we're going to look at that in a little bit later, so you can put it away for now. This is just the start of the exercise, so you can just put it next to you. And I want to talk a little bit about the brain. Okay, like I said, it's important if you want to dive into unconscious bias to understand how the brain works. So I'm not a neuroscientist, okay? So the brain is a very complex organ, right? But I read this book and it made me it explained it to me in a very clear way how unconscious bias comes about. And I don't know if you've heard of it or if you've read about it. If you read it, the book Thinking Fast and Slow from Daniel Kahneman. Has anybody read it? No? Okay, well, it's quite a thick book. I can understand. It's a bit, especially if you're already working, having to, and studying and having to read a lot, it's a bit daunting. So, but what he says is that in the brain, there is a system 1 and there's a system 2. And the system 1 part of the brain is actually based on intuition and instinct. So it's very fast, it reacts quickly, it associates, it comes up with a solution really fast, and it actually costs the body the least energy. So system 1 is the part of the brain that is turned on actually directly. And then there's system 2, and system 2 is kind of like slow, and it costs the body energy, and it's the rational part of the brain, you know, like it thinks left, right, weighs options. It's kind of lazy, and it's kind of indecisive, you know, it goes through things. So let's see how you can experience this. So for example, I say 56 times 23. How much is that? 56 times 23. 56 times 23. Who knows it? Who knows? Maybe somebody online? 56 times 23. It takes so long. And you know, I see your faces and your faces go like, oh, really? Do I have to go back to how I multiply? What did I learn in school again? I'm not even going to try. Now, what system is that? 2. It's system 2 because it's lazy and it takes effort and you go like, all right, system 2. So now I ask you the next question. So, how do I say this in English? Which groups have the shortest marriages? Scientists or librarians? No, scientists or pop stars. Sorry, scientists or pop stars. Which have the shortest marriages? Pop stars. Yes, right away. And how did you know, Fatima? You don't know. Reading news, because you are exposed to a lot of ideas on like how pop stars have their marriages. They're quick and dirty and they divorce like after 3 days, right? And we read this in all the magazines when we are at the hairdresser. And so you don't even have to think about it. And you all were smiling and you all thought you were associating scientists, pop stars. Okay, what comes to mind? This comes to mind. What system is that? 1, exactly. It's your underbelly feeling. It's your immediate association. So where do you think unconscious bias, in which system is that? 1. Yes, it's the associative part of the brain. It's quick. It immediately has an opinion. It has a feeling of good and bad associated with it. How much do you think, and this is Daniel Kahneman has done a lot of research on this. How much of the system 2 do you think that we use? 1%. 1%, really? What do you think, David?
Well, I think maybe like 20%.
20%? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Who thinks more? Yeah? What do you think? 40%. You make the decisions, 40% you say. You make your decisions, 40% of the decisions you make.
There's another thing I thought that you asked about how much time do I spend on either.
No, how much
It's more complicated. Yeah, maybe.
of all the decisions that you take, how many do you take based on system 2? You know, like weighing the pros and cons, being rational about it.
Oh no, I can do that, but still make system 1 decide.
That's a good one. What do you think?
I would go as high as 80.
80. Oh, you think 80% of the decisions that you make is based on the rational decision making?
No, system 1 actually.
Oh, system 1, 80%. Ah, yeah. Well, he did some research as well. Actually, 5% of all our decision making is done by the rational brain. Oh, gives 95% of the decision making based on our associative brain. So we think that we do a lot of pros and cons thinking, but actually most of the decisions we make are based on the number 1. And these include also, like, for example, I decide to now take a step forward because I don't really have to think about it. Or, you know, like drinking a glass of water, that's also all system 1. I do it automatic. So the automatic brain makes sure that we can do a lot of things without even thinking about it. And it helps us. It helps us because there's so much stuff that we have to do otherwise with things that really require special attention. It's the system 2 that we need. All right, now I am maybe not the best neuroscientist to explain this, so I have a little video that you can see as well, and it also will give you some of the most common biases that we all are impacted by, how our brain works. So maybe just try to remember a few, and I'll ask you about it later. Okay? So I hope the technique works well. We're going to see, and we're going to look at this video. Okay? No. Yeah.
If you are like anyone else in the world, you probably assume you are aware of what you think. And yet, this is not the case at all. In fact, our conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg. A large part of what we process on a daily basis happens in the part of the mind we are not consciously registering. It is estimated that our senses gather 11 million pieces of information per second. It's impossible for the conscious mind to process all of that data. It's only capable to deal with 5 to 7 pieces per second. So in order to move around in the world, we categorize constantly. All this happens in the blink of an eye, without us even realizing it. The extent to which we use our unconscious mind is enormous. In our daily life, we rely on it most of the time. Our unconscious is able to perform incredibly sophisticated tasks in a more efficient way by categorizing. This enables our active mind to focus on the most prevalent and the things that require more conscious awareness. However, in the back of our mind, we maintain an automatic system of categorization. Consequently, we perceive other people based on this system. Our behavior is learned, automatic, and unintentional. That's why we speak of unconscious bias. We should remember it's a human condition, and it's part of every life situation. It's neither good nor bad, yet it is important to be aware of. The first step is to become conscious of the process that happens in the back of your mind. Most of us would like to think that we don't judge or act on autopilot, and yet the majority of unconscious processing is based on simplification. This creates biases that sometimes aren't even compatible with one's conscious values. Unconscious biases are learned stereotypes that are automatic and influence your behavior. Here are some examples of unconscious bias. Affinity bias is also known as similarity bias. It is the tendency that people have to connect with others who share similar interests, experiences, and backgrounds as they do. Confirmation bias is the inclination to search for and favor information that affirms your prior ideas and beliefs. Attribution bias is the tendency to assign behavior directly to someone's character without considering the context or the specific situation. For example, if someone is late one time, you immediately assume their time management is bad. Conformity bias happens when people act similar to the people around them, regardless of their own personal beliefs or values. This is also known as peer pressure. The halo effect is the inclination to place another person on a pedestal after learning something impressive about them. The horns effect is the opposite. It's the tendency people have to view another person negatively after learning something unpleasant or negative about them. Gender bias occurs when you have gender-based perceptions or assumptions. And gender expression bias is when you judge the way someone expresses their gender. There are many other types of unconscious bias. Think about age, social expectations, people with disabilities, and many more. All of this does not have to stand in the way of an inclusive environment, as long as we are aware of our unconscious bias.
A lot of information, huh? Yeah. So, who remembers what is the reason that our brain makes these associations? Why we have unconscious bias? Too much information to process per second. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So what do we do? What does our brain do to make it easier? We categorize. Yes. And what else? What does the brain do except for, in order to categorize, what does the brain have to do? Simplify, right. Anything else? Yeah. Generalization, simplification, categorization, it all helps to, put people in boxes or situation in boxes, because there's no way we can absorb so much information. So that's why, when you have a brain, you're biased. We have to, otherwise we go nuts. Of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's that's positive for certain groups of people sometimes. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Which biases do you remember? Which one stood out for you?
Gender bias.
Gender bias, yeah. Can you also remember the description, gender bias?
Making assumptions based on the expression of gender of other people.
Yeah, making assumptions based. That's gender expression bias. Huh? That you judge someone. If a man wears nail polish, for example, you find him a wuss, or you find him too feminine, or that's gender expression bias. You think this cannot be a leader. This man is not strong, or a woman who is very strong and opinionated. That you think, okay, well, this person is not a real woman. She should be more modest and nice, sweet, because that's what you would automatically maybe fit with a woman, consciously or unconsciously. Yeah, so gender bias, gender expression bias. What else? Yeah.
I found confirmation bias to be really
Yeah, if you're a student, absolutely. What is it? Do you remember what it was about?
Yeah, you're going to look for specific patterns or associations to confirm your own kind of what you were thinking initially.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting.
Can you repeat it? What you just said? That's really good.
Don't remember.
Confirmation bias is.
Yeah, so you're going to look for the patterns or associations that you initially thought were there to kind of confirm what you thought in the first place, which I thought was interesting, because then don't you kind of use system to justify what system 1 was telling you?
Yes, and we do that a lot. Yes, confirmation bias, and it's even worse that we don't only look for information that confirms already the thing that we want to have confirmed, but we also resist information that proves the opposite. So yeah. That's we can't trust our brain, people. That's the thing. That's one of the biggest messages of this workshop. Do not trust your brain, because it plays tricks on you. Okay, who else remembers one? Yeah.
I thought the halo and horn effect was very interesting.
Yeah. Can you explain them?
Yeah, it's the first impression from someone, and if that's a very positive one, you put them on a halo, and the other one, if it's a
you put them on a pedestal.
Yeah, on a pedestal, and if it's a bad situation, then you already confirm that that's not the case, and this person is bad, and you don't want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah, and it's not just the first impression, but it's to specify that a little bit, because really good that you remembered that. But it's after hearing or experience something good or bad about them. So somebody is also a fan of your, either your political group or your football group, or there's something, or somebody did a great D&I course, and you're thinking, wow, that person is great. And then from that point on, you just look at somebody with pink glasses on. And the opposite is also true, that if somebody rubbed you the wrong way at a certain point of time, either said something insulting, maybe intentionally, unintentionally, then from that point on, there's nothing good that person can do. Yeah, very good. Anybody else remember any bias? There were a lot, huh? There were a lot. And with the full workshop, we can definitely go more into that. But let's stick with this one. This was actually not mentioned by you, but this is a very important bias. It's called the affinity bias. And I must say that there's, maybe you start Googling or doing some kind of research on this bias. It's also called the in-group bias, or it's called the clone bias, the mini-me bias. There's different words for the same thing. I call it the affinity bias. Anybody remember what that was? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, say it and I'll repeat it. You remember that well, but that's not the affinity bias. Well, you're close, but I think what you're describing is the conformity bias, the peer pressure, that you tend to agree with your peers. The affinity bias is the bias where you tend to favor people that are similar as yourself. Yeah, I see nodding heads. Remember, favoring people that are similar as yourself, you trust them quicker. You tend to, without really being very conscious of it, but you tend to see them as more positive if you feel like people are in your same group, they're from your same tribe, as to say. So, let's see. Let's get the sheet that you just had in front of you with the 5 names. And now I would like you to add a few columns. So for people that don't see this very well, so here you put the initials, right, of the 5 people that you trust the most, that are your inner circle. Then now just put a line and put gender, and then put the age group as a column. Hi, by the way, welcome. Then put the age group, and you can take like years of 10, so like 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. That's maybe good intervals. Age group, ethnicity, so culture, race, religion. Nationality, where somebody was born, education level, lower, middle, higher, and sexual orientation, if you know. So also for the people who are logged in, please put the columns next to your initials. And yeah, just take 2 minutes for that. And I'll come back to that in a bit. And remember, there is no right or wrong here. Eh? This is just an exercise that you do for yourself and that we're going to, discuss in a safe space. But it's just about exploring. So the first column is gender, second column is age group, ethnicity, nationality, education level, sexual orientation. When you're done, just put your hand up just for a bit so I know a little bit about if people are done. Yeah. Everybody working hard. I see system 2, like I hear it. System 2 is working, taking so much energy. You done? So, we're almost done? Yeah? 2 seconds more? Now, after you're done, put your own name at the bottom. And also put the columns for yourself. I see some people laughing. So I'm curious. You all done? Yeah? So what do you? Is there anything that you notice about this group? Who wants to share? You don't have to share in detail about the names or anything, but you want to share about your outcome. Yeah.
There is quite a
Oh, the. Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second. You'll get the. Yeah.
You're gonna hold it for me.
Yeah.
There is a good mix between male and female.
Right.
There is a 40-year age group.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Ethnicity is Caucasian, white from South America and Asia.
Mostly white. Yeah.
Mostly white. And
Yeah.
education level is all academic, and sexual orientation, as far as I know, all heterosexual. So that's
Yeah.
not very
Yeah.
different.
Nee.
They're all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay,
Did
so.
I not say nationality well? They are from all around Europe and China and Brazil.
Okay. All right. So you could say, like, as far as gender, age group, and ethnicity,
Yeah, that is
quite some
mixed.
diversity.
Yeah,
Mostly higher educated people, straight.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Anybody have a different outcome? This lady here, Marija.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about someone online saying something.
Yeah, for me, it's gender is very mixed. Age is almost all the same. Ethnicity is all the same. Nationality all the same. But education is very mixed for me.
And right.
Sexual orientation is all the same.
Yeah, sexual orientation all the same. So there is some variety in gender, you said, right?
In gender and in education.
And in education. All right, all right, all right. Hey, and what does this? It's a little bit of it's somewhat in some categories a homogeneous group, huh? What is the advantage of that? there's lots of advantages to having people that are similar as you around you. What would you say is the advantage?
I think the same experiences.
Yeah. You see that a lot in when you're in the same life phase, you know, when you're just starting to have children, or you're just married, or you're just together with a partner, you know, like it's nice to share that because you only need half a word and people know what you're dealing with, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, and who else has quite a homogeneous group in his overview? Who came out with quite a homogeneous outcome? Yeah, go ahead. Alexander.
Well, basically the major difference is that 2 people are Vietnamese.
Okay.
The others are, everyone is roughly my age, has a Dutch nationality, someone has a dual nationality with Canadian, I have dual nationality with Polish.
There's quite a lot of different nationalities. Huh? Right?
We're all Dutch as well, so.
Oh, also, yeah. But with
we're all university or HBO and all heterosexual.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, all heterosexual. Okay, all right. And what is the advantage of that you feel of having people all with a similar sexual orientation, similar age?
I didn't look for these kinds of traits in them. I just so happened to encounter these people and have connections with them.
Yeah. And this is the thing, right? Like we tend to get comfortable closer, quicker with people that are similar as us, because a lot of times it creates a lot of easy bonding, easy click. So homogeneous teams in general, they work together, you know, quite harmoniously because people are all in the similar situation, or they are. But then are there also people that have? You also gave a great example of a very diverse group of friends. What do you think are the advantages of having a very diverse group?
I don't know, because I don't know another group. So it's hard to talk about advantages, I say, because there is no group B, let's say. So for me, somehow I look for people with who I can, relate on an energy level, let's say, that with whom I have a click. It doesn't have to be somebody like me. I also like very much if somebody says something else, something that is new for me. I can learn a lot from that. So that is my experience, that I like people who bring new perspectives, for example.
Yeah. Nice. And that brings you this group of this very diverse inner circle. So you're really, maybe unconsciously, but it's so ingrained in you that this is what it comes out to. And again, there is no good or bad, people. I mean, it's not like, if you have a very homogeneous group of friends, a lot of people say, well, I grew up with these people. What do you want me to do? Like they're my friends from the village where I grew up. So yeah, of course they're all white and they have the same age. And you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I wanted to say I think exposure is also really important, because I think people that might have friends of varying nationalities are persons that either got to study abroad or etc. So I think that's also an element to consider.
Yeah. Exposure has a lot, and also it takes a little bit of getting out of your comfort zone to go to a different country. It takes a little bit of uncomfortableness to be around people that have different perspectives, that are different from you, that don't look like you, right? And not everybody has been in that position to experience that and have a positive experience. And not everybody is looking for that, I think also. Yeah. Anybody else wants to share about his outcome? Yeah, Marije.
Easy now.
Yeah, you got the microphone already.
Yeah, I just want to share that when I was single and had a really large wish for a child, I got in touch with this gay couple. And now when reflecting on it, and I have children with them now, so now reflecting on that, they really made my group more diverse because they are from different nationalities as well. And I can just really confirm that it makes it sometimes very difficult as well. I've been confronted with very different ideas, like cultural. One of the men is from Germany, but also from being from an LGBTQ community is very different. That has really opened my eyes on some things, and the different that at our society as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Then my group is still very white, and there is more diversity to bring in, I think.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that personal story. And actually, it's then through that, through you trying to have a
the
child.
advantage was for me very clear, I think.
Yeah, but also that you got in touch with this gay couple who has.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that opened your world a little bit.
Yes, very much. Yeah, we had this, I think this one thing that we were looking for, but there is a lot more that it brought, of course.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, and I come across groups where like their inner circles, they want to start diversity and inclusion initiatives, but their own inner circles are very, very wide and have not been exposed to people from different cultures, different education levels, and it can have some disadvantages as well, because you don't know how to find people, or you don't know how to connect with people because you feel uncomfortable. And it takes a little bit of uncomfortableness, I think, to get out of that, to get out of your own circle. And it's human, because we're a little bit tribal in that sense. But I like this picture a lot. Why don't we have any fresh ideas around here? The affinity bias, which is so ingrained in us, the feel to stay with your own tribe, it really works against a diverse work environment, and to make people feel included. So and to include yourself in a group of very different people. So this is something we really have to, if we want to make steps with diversity and inclusion. This is one of the biases to first be most aware of, to get out of that comfort zone of your own tribe and to find people to connect with that are very different than you. So I would like you to just, maybe I talked a lot already, huh? To maybe just find someone to talk to, just one-on-one, in pairs, and to talk about in what situation is this affinity bias now most likely to happen in your work or in the TU environment that you're in. Just come up with like 1 or 2 situations each where you feel this affinity bias may affect you. This may be nice to just talk about with each other for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back to the plenary session. And also the people in the online session who logged in, maybe just write down 2 situations for yourself and just take 5 minutes to think about where this affinity bias may hinder you a little bit in your work to get out of your comfort zone and to meet other people and to drive these initiatives forward. Okay, so I would say 5 minutes, and then we come back. Just sit with someone that you don't know yet. Why not? Just to get uncomfortable a little bit. Good luck. Ja, geeft niet. Staat dat ding nog aan? Kan ik de flip over even pakken? Dan kan ik wat dingen misschien opschrijven, ja?
Het komt alleen dan niet op het scherm zo goed.
Ja, dat geeft niet. Misschien beter zo, hè? Gaat dat? 1, 2. Ja. Geef niet. Misschien voor de plant. Ja, super, dank je. Zeg je?
De kijkers constant.
Goed.
Ja, dus ik ga
Hoeveel?
heel erg op neer, rond de 30, 33.
Oké. Goed zo. Oké, nog 2 minuutjes, mensen. Two more minutes. Okay, I want to ask you to please wrap up your conversation. And yeah, is there anybody who has a really good example of how the affinity bias sometimes hinders you in your work in like being open to others, or judging how other people, how you perceive other people? Who wants to be open about that? Yeah, you can say something.
Say something. Yeah, I think that when you want to hire new people, we always make a profile, and then we say we're going to look for the best person. Then we always have to think about what does it mean exactly. Does it mean we are looking for a Dutch white male, or is that what it boils down to in the end, or not? So that is a very difficult question to answer. And the second thing is, I am the chair of the Career Development Committee in Civil Engineering. And we have a person from every department, so we are, and also other faculty, so we are a quite large group. We are 9 members in the committee. And we have a criteria from the management team that we judge people by, to give them tenure or to promote them to a social professorship. And even though we are all conscious about this bias, it is still very difficult to not fall for it.
I know, yeah.
We look for specific qualities in people, but what does it mean? So that is really hard.
And what are the qualities that you're looking for?
Well, we want people who, let's say, certainly when they want to be a social professor, that they have to be outgoing, expressive. They have to be able to convince us as a committee that their ideas are sound and solid. And you are, before you know it, you are only looking for these kind of people.
Yeah.
Who are people who are outliers, but actually very good scientists or even very good teachers.
Yeah.
Are they not qualified? And that is our struggle, let's say, all the time.
Interesting. And I hear you say that actually the process and the competencies that you're describing could already cause a bias in finding the right people. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, David? Thank you so much. Nice example.
Yeah, I think part of the affinity bias is also risk aversion. So I've been in hiring processes where there could be a candidate who comes from a completely different culture and background. And then it's like, well, interesting person, but it's kind of risky, to hire somebody like this. So that also plays a role in risk management.
And how is risk perceived then? Like, what makes it risky?
Well, there's too much unknown about the person. There's too much, the person doesn't fit in like the regular model or mold.
I like what you say.
That person, it's interesting, but well, let's just go with the safe.
Yeah.
We know the background, we know the person, we know the university. We know that the examples that the person comes with their work examples, we can relate to those because they're based on kind of European kind of issues and societal problems that we're dealing with here. And when somebody comes from abroad with different background, different ideas, perspectives, And then it's like, yeah, but
Very
maybe
good
this person
point.
won't be able to fit in culturally here because they're coming with such a diverse background. And so then there's like this risk avoidance plays a big role.
Yeah, this is a really good example. Thank you so much for expressing that and just being open about that, because I think that plays a role a lot, both in gender bias as well as cultural bias, as well as, because the least risk if you're looking for somebody to fill a vacancy is to take someone who has already filled that vacancy so often, right, with that profile. So yeah, this is so true. Okay, great. So great examples. Now, of course, another important question, more important even, what can you do to counteract this tendency? So think of the examples that you just spoke about, and now think about, so if I know that this is a risk, that this affinity bias plays a role, so how can, just think of 2 actions that you could do, and maybe think of it together for each of your situations. What can you do to make it more open to diversity, to counteract that affinity bias? Yeah? 5 more minutes. All right? Thank you. Ja? Oké. Moeten we er nog even op terugkomen zo? Of is het zolang het maar levendig is ook, hè? Dat is ook al goed? Ja. Misschien kan je zo een korte samenvatting geven van wat er voor gezegd is.
No, I'm just thinking. Yeah, yeah.
Moment van iemand dit is niet een affinity bias, maar dat ze dus een bias, zij is een vrouw en dat ze een bias heeft naar een andere.
genoeg besproken met elkaar. Dank jullie wel voor het meedoen aan deze oefening. Ik ben even benieuwd. Laten we een aantal echt goede... sorry, I'm speaking in Dutch. Thank you for participating with this exercise. I just didn't have the English button on yet. Let's write down some of your good intentions to do it differently next time. Marco, you want to share one of... Oh ja, Marije, kan jij de microfoon erbij houden?
Thanks. We were discussing about the example brought before, about the selection of new people,
right,
staff members.
Yeah.
And we were thinking that at level of TU Delft and not only on department or faculty level, there can be collaboration with external groups, for example, and external universities to have, let's say, people from outside the group also deciding on the selection.
So changing the selection process by creating a more diverse group? Oh. Selection process with more diverse. And also to go outside of your group, outside of your normal faculty, or is that right? Yeah, faculty, or even different university, you said, right? Is that realistic? Is that doable? You're doing it? Okay, all right, yeah.
And on
different perspectives?
Online, someone is also making suggestions.
Yeah, okay, now go for it.
So someone's saying like we should use, or we could use CVs that are with no personal data.
Yeah, possible.
Even more in the meantime, but
do you want to add to that?
Yeah. When I was applying in the Netherlands, I left my nationality off my CV for that specific reason.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you've. Can you put the microphone?
I assume that I would not be favored based off of my nationality because I'm not Dutch. So I just decided to leave that out and figured that out when they accepted me.
Yeah. And it's actually a sad thing that you had to think about that, right? It is sad, yeah, that you have to think about all the biases that people may have. And of course, this is the world that we live in now. And you have to work with it, yeah. Would you like to say that?
I did the same, but with my study disability. And I ended up now in a job for people with study disabilities. And that was the only one where I put it on my resume that I have experience with that. And I think by doing that, I'm an example for this list in hiring people that have experiences that are different from the normal student.
Yeah.
And make it more inclusive because of these experiences.
Yeah. So if I can summarize and correct me if I'm wrong, so basically you're saying that changing the attitude that different is not good, but different is good, and embracing it because it can bring the TU Delft so much more perspectives and so much more valuable students. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, a lot of times all of us, I could say, like the majority of people, they want to value the differences, right? We want to embrace. But it's these unconscious biases that we feel, but it's a bit risky. Or but it's a bit different. Or like, I don't really feel good with it. Or like, I just don't really have a click. And those are the moments that are tricky. Because those are the moments that you really have to think about it for yourself and say, what is this based on? What is this underbelly feeling, this system one that's coming into play? And this is working against what we're trying to achieve. Yeah. Now, great. Anybody else? Some last tips and tricks to counteract affinity bias? Silence. David?
I can give an example. There's a university in Sweden where actually what they do is they outsource completely. So say we're looking for, let's say, a tenure tracker. This is the position, and it gets outsourced to an agency, and they look for the candidates.
Yeah.
To avoid bias. Yeah, and they say, hey, these are your 3 candidates. Choose whichever one you want, but these are them.
Yeah.
They completely just leave out all the demographic background and all that information.
Well, that's a nice initiative, but then at the same time, they do have to have a conversation, right?
Yeah, but it's you have to have trust in your description of the position and the profile.
Yeah.
And then it's quite tricky because you're actually outsourcing the recruitment. But then it's a trade-off. But then at least you're ensured that it's not a bias of some sort.
Yeah, unless the recruiters are biased. And the recruiters know that you're looking for a white male.
No, but yeah, okay, but they're
so they just
hired.
These
they're
three
hired
candidates
for that.
because they get money if they get hired. No,
but they're hired for that purpose. They actually deliberately, explicitly do that to avoid a bias.
Okay, all right.
I mean, there's always some biases.
Yeah, there's always
something
tips and tricks, but we have to think outside of the box.
It's a different way of doing hiring.
Yeah, I like it. You know, in the end, it's not so much what you do, but that you realize that if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to have the same outcomes. We have to start doing different things to have different outcomes and to have different people in different positions, right? That's really the message. Okay, I'm looking at the time. Thank you so much for thinking. In this exercise, thinking of new ways. In the end, it is really not about, all different things, whether they're right or wrong. But the point is that you start thinking about your thoughts and thinking about your process of doing things. My suggestion to you, bias cannot be eliminated. We have a brain, we're biased. But we can become aware of it, and we can become aware of the thought processes that are happening in our brain and the stereotypes that we sometimes still follow. So how to counteract bias is, one, pause for a second. If you make a decision with a lot of times with system 1, we've seen that. A lot of times with system 1, take a pause and think, okay, what do I base this decision on? Hold on a second. Try to catch yourself in the act of acting on your bias. Then 2, reflect on it. Think, okay, so what is the data that I actually make this decision on? Is there any form of bias that could actually happen here? You can discuss this with a colleague. You can ask different people to give their opinion. This is the reflection part. And then correct. If you feel like, hey, this is not the right way to make my decision, I need to correct my thoughts. Maybe there are some assumptions that I make based on stereotypes, and then correct it. Challenge your thoughts. That's really the idea. Challenge your thoughts, include other people, become aware of your biases, get to know more of your biases. We just talked about one, which is a very powerful one, very impactful one, the affinity bias. But you're not going to eliminate it, but talk about it, be aware of it, discuss it with other people, point the bias out in your colleague, ask somebody to point out the possible bias that you may have. Just come out with it. Say, I am biased. You're probably biased. So let's try to make this, in the steps towards more diversity and inclusion, let's keep each other really alert. Do you want to see if there's any comment online before I go to the final video?
I think online people are saying indeed that they recognize biases within themselves, and also that it's someone saying I felt shocked when I noticed that I'm doing that. So at least this awareness is there, I think. Yeah, that's most of it.
Yeah, and then you were talking about using, when somebody had to write a recommendation letter, you just
different attributions to women or men. So they gave, they use stereotype words for women more like hardworking or reliable, and for men maybe ambitious or creative. Or at least he was noticing that he was giving this hardworking and reliable and not ambitious or creative.
Yeah, and you can say,
a
is
female
this...
student, yeah.
Yeah, and she asked, is this affinity bias? But, you know, in the end, it doesn't really matter if it's affinity bias or gender bias. The fact that she realizes that she writes different words for men and women, and she starts thinking about it, that's what you want. In the end, it doesn't really matter if you can say, oh, it's this or that. Sometimes the biases overlap, you know, or they have a lot to do with each other. So that doesn't matter. As long as you have the conversation and as long as you catch yourself in these acts of bias and then think about it. You know, you pause, you reflect, you correct. All right, now, we've almost come to the end. I have one more video for you, which is funny, has something to do with affinity bias as well. But I'm just curious if you're gonna leave and maybe tonight you're coming home to wherever your homes are. What are you still going to remember from this workshop? What is something that sticks in your mind? Do you have the microphone, Magaya? What is the one thing that you think, oh yeah? Or does it all just have to sink in? Yeah.
Yeah, you hold this, right? Is it on? Yes, okay. Well, I was really surprised that basically all my friends were male within their 20s. They're white and they're 4 out of 5 at university. So the affinity bias really sticks with me a lot. So thank you for that. That was really a big realization that it exists for me. A bit more than I expected it to do. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Now that can be quite an aha moment, yeah. And it doesn't matter. It can be your close friends. It's fine. Just realize that this affinity bias works the same way in your work. When you look for a project team, when you look for people to hire. So fine, don't change your friends at all. That's not what you hear me say. Don't say, okay, I can't see you anymore tonight. We have to break up. But just realize that this is something that just trickles down, and you know, this process just has an effect on a lot of things that you do and how you interact with people. Okay, thank you for making that comment. Last video, and then we'll say goodbye. Yeah. So here you see, you know, like just a little bit of motivation to sometimes get out of your comfort zone, you know, change your stereotypes. It may just get you a drink or a beer and some new friends. So I want to thank so much Magaya and Yassine and David and Fatima for inviting me here today. It was a pleasure working with you. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
And I want to thank you all as well for being active and very open, and at home as well. It was very nice to read the comments too. Yeah. And Gloria, thank you very much for making this 3-hour workshop into 1.5 hour.
Yeah.
You did really well, and we give you some extra work, maybe not. Some,
okay.
New cultural perspective, maybe you already know it. But
thank you so
have
much.
fun reading.
Thank you. All right. Ja, vond je het leuk? Goed.
Dat is wel een uitdaging, een half uur.
Gaat ie? Lukt het goed?
Nee, ik heb wel, maar ik heb gewoon niet